Welcome back to the Two Pointers podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. I'm joined by the person that you should be expecting over the last 2 years of doing this, and obviously a bit of a hiatus. We'll touch on that another time, but it looks slightly different behind me, but moved, whatever. Again, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the fact that Grayson and I, for a few years, were like, can we get a real game? Can we get 5? Can we get 6? Well, we got 5, I guess, a couple times. And we're coming to you 45 seconds after the game's over, basically. Hand up. I got the Sabonis trade wrong. I'll be honest.
Jeez. Oh, that's a block on first take in the morning. So yeah. I think we can drop any qualifier ahead of superstar for Halliburton. I mean, if you're hitting these shots in these spots and in uncharted waters for your franchise, I think you're a superstar. And I don't think that this game in particular is what cemented it, but I think the more eyes that we get on it, and he is up to the challenge seemingly each and every time. And now he's got a finals game winner to his name. I don't think that's a resume easily replicated by active players. And honestly, the way these shots are stacking up in these spots, I think he's putting himself in a pretty tight pantheon as far as playoff performers, and that ultimately is what dictates a good bit of your legacy anyway. So, yeah, as a very biased Thunder fan, just shades of game one against Denver. Dare team to come back. I don't think we hit a 3 the whole fourth quarter. Pacers had, I believe, half a dozen. So that's 18 points in aggregate right there. The turnover flood slowed to a trickle. 19 forced in the first half, which I'm sure is all kinds of records, both playoffs and honestly, I mean, you don't see that in games as bad as people want to say the regular season product is. But I think Pacers started taking care of the ball, started hitting threes. Toppin recovered from maybe the worst opening 5 minutes of a finals appearance ever. Came back taking care of the ball, hitting threes. You know, really the epitome of what got Indiana back in the game. I think the lead hit 15, 2 minutes and change into the fourth, and then it was all serves from there. Just I don't know, like you said, it's been seconds, if not minutes, since this game went final. I waited over a decade to watch the Thunder in the finals again, led by a superstar that was driven by self-intrinsic factors and not fame and championships other guards can win for him. So not what as I was expecting, especially when I agreed to do this. So shout out to me for putting myself in that spot. And yeah, I mean, I didn't buy the steamroll talk, it's going to be 5, Indy gets lucky at home, that kind of situation. I said Thunder in 6 from the moment we knew the matchup, and we knew it for the better part of the last week where the Thunder weren't playing. Yeah, honestly, biggest overall takeaway is the odds of a Thunder home closeout are pretty slim now, because you think with the performance tonight and what went into it and how the Pacers seemingly won again. Ask the Bucks fans, ask the Knicks fans, like they're not surprised. It's just a whole new fan base getting introduced to the insanity of this Pacers run. So I guess I feel better about Thunder in 6, but also like this just sucks, like just to put it plainly. Yeah, they absolutely folded, let it get away. And the Pacers stole it in dramatic fashion, much like Denver did in game 1 2 rounds ago.
I bring up the timing of this in good faith, I promise. If we're talking about this shot to clinch the finals in game 6, maybe he has another moment or two, then I'm changing. Like I'm not calling a superstar. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm not changing someone from one finals run. Like I'm just not. I'm not changing. It's just like the Luca crown stuff 2 years ago. Like
Right.
I'm not giving him the crown because, or I guess was that 2 years ago or 1 year ago at this point? Good grief. I'm not giving him a crown strictly because he made a finals run. Like he's had a couple of great, slots, and obviously this is different the way we hold Luca in this high regard, but what he's doing is impressive. Tyler Halliburton, like just a couple of things to kind of contradict everything I said. One of the last things I saw before I turned it off, come up here, and he's since 1997, he's tied with Reggie Miller for the most clutch shots, the second most clutch shots in the NBA periods, and since 1997, in the I think it's in the playoffs. Um, the guy who's done the most, he's only three behind. His name's LeBron James. He hasn't even been in the playoffs consistently long enough to even be remotely in the same breath of somebody in a clutch situation like that. And the
Oh,
fact that we're talking about him statistically that far, not that far apart from LeBron since 1997. Oh, by the way, 20 years plus. Like what he's doing is impressive. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm also not changing my drastic opinion of him. And I think he's an incredible playmaker. I think he's got the best vision in the NBA right now of a guy that's that age. I don't think it's even close. But is my confidence meter for him to do this again and again and again? It's not zero. That's for sure. After now we've seen it three straight rounds against three different teams that play three different styles defensively. I I guess I would land the plane by kind of moving the conversation towards. I told you jokingly, like, and I was partly joking, but the third quarter I had a hand enough that I like was doing other things preparing for this. Like I wasn't remotely even thinking this was a conversation we were going to have. I thought it was. I had like questions for you prepared, like all kinds of stuff. Like it was all of it's gone, scrapped out the window, deleted, not even over here. Um, I I've watched basketball long enough. The stats in the eye test of this game don't match up at all. I understand that they won in rebounding and assists, and they basically were the better shooting team on paper by the end of the game. Uh, None of that makes any sense. Like it doesn't. That's not how this game played out whatsoever. And I hate to ask a question, but like, what keeps them in these games for so long? Like, I don't get it.
yeah. I mean, the third quarter, you didn't really miss much. The game kind of oscillated between that 8, 10, 12 point range, just trading buckets, little mini spurts here and there, and coming out of timeouts, running sets, getting quick buckets, and then the immediate answers. Lou Dort trading threes with a couple Pacers there. Um,
He was really good tonight, by the way.
he
I'm
was
sure we'll have a whole
excellent.
conversation about him at some point. But like,
He
he was
was,
really
yeah.
good, and he
Uh,
would have been a humongous story had this game gone the other direction. Like he would, like
oh, there were
his
plenty
performance is being
yeah,
discredited because of that.
lots of journalists keeping Lou Dort articles and drafts tonight because of, I, I mean, a team insanity run again. I mean, it just everything went in. Siakam was banking threes. You know, there was a lane violation called, which,
Yeah,
I wasn't aware that was a thing in the NBA anymore because you look in any lane, even tonight, both sides, everybody's got a foot in the lane. Siakam added some weird hitch to his shot that might have caused that, whether that was on purpose or not. I mean, it got him 8 point, and we're
I think
looking at
there
the final
was.
score.
I think there was a I think it was a Hartenstein free throw in the second quarter where like I thought they were going to call some kind of violation. Like both, it was like both sides, the bottom two guys, all decided we're moving like before the ball even leaves his hand. And I
I mean, it's
literally
that
looked up.
baseline camera angle that tells on everybody.
I looked up and I was like, "Are they moving or am I in slow motion? Like, what is happening here?" Like it was jarring enough that like yeah, it happened a couple of times. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought Mark was pretty bold to go small off the bat. He put Case and Wallace in the starting lineup in place of Hartenstein, and that, early on, the defense was just hellacious. Indy couldn't get anything going whatsoever, and the only reason the Thunder weren't up 40 in this game is they just weren't cashing in at nearly the same rate off of those turnovers. Like I said, 19 in the first half, and it was a 9 point game at halftime. You show me that any other Thunder game, I say it's 20 something easily. And we've seen that in this playoffs. We've seen that all year from this team. They're trying to push towards 85 wins total and be one of the best teams in the history of the NBA. And so it'd only be up 9 uh, after a historic defensive half as far as being disruptive and tipping balls and grabbing rebounds and getting out quick. There were a couple times late in the first half they tried, a couple different guys tried the kill shot 3 up 10, just didn't fall. I think Lou eventually got one to get it to 12 or 13 there late in the half. A little bit sloppy up near the glass on offense late. J-Dub had one. I think Chet blew one as well. I mean, I say blue like I could go out there and do that. But for the caliber of player that was doing it, you'd expect it to go in with their proximity and the access they had to the glass there. So
That's fair.
Just little things that in my mind as a fan, they stick. I'm like, okay, we're going to bookmark this. And I hope to rip up this bookmark. But then we're coming back to a 1-point game. It's like, all right, point here, point there, things like that. The Thunder did really well to get to the free throw line. Looked like a pretty ethical game, free throw wise, from both teams. Which
No,
as a fan
their
of
penetration
basketball,
into the lane was elite for most of this game.
yeah, and then Nimhard essentially took it upon himself to put 2 feet in the paint every offensive possession. Was really ball handling more than Halliburton was down the stretch, to be honest. So he had a couple key threes as well. Neesmith added 1 or 2 too. I don't know who had the majority of the 18 that they hit. I would assume it was Toppin. He had 5 or 6, but yeah, just can't do it. And the one kind of Achilles heel of the Thunder is they'll give you those outside fringe corner threes. And to the Pacers' credit, they lined them up and they hit them. And it was unlikely guys like Siakam. And then it was guys that, Aaron Neesmith made a name for himself the rest of his life just, 2 weeks ago. So, the expected guys, the known evils, and then guys like Siakam who've been there before, has won a title. But somehow people just push to the side like it just,
The broadcast brings it up plenty, but yes, it doesn't. The fact that this is a champion against, and
right.
I get that Katie went down in that finals, but
that was kind of like that Tatum injury. That series was decided, and then the injury followed that. And that's
Siakam was
obviously
the third best player in that finals. That's no discredit to anybody that probably deserves that conversation.
But he's been great. He was
8, by the way, to your point, he was 5 for 8.
Yeah, and he started 0 for 3, I think. I mean, he was maybe not 0 for 3. He was that first half of the first quarter. He was my favorite player because he was awful. He was airmailing passes. He was missing threes. You could tell mentally he just wasn't quite right. But to his credit, reset, clean slate. He was out there hitting shots he's expected to, and really improved as the game went on throughout. And I think the broadcast did a good job of kind of highlighting that and the early struggles and Carlisle keeping him in and just allowing him to contribute the way they had to have him contribute to win this game.
His game from what he was at Dayton and just what you think of him as an athletic player. Yeah, I mean, obviously the 3-point shot for him has been stunning this playoffs run. 2 corner threes, 1 close enough to the corner we can call it a corner, 2 from the top of the key, and he had 1 dunk, and that was it. That was his whole night.
Yeah, I mean that's if you show Rick Carlisle that, he's like, good, check, done. That's what we want from him.
That's the thing. Like, you don't get that from him, they don't win this game. Like, it's that simple.
No,
and that's how close
7 more sets
really was.
like that. Yeah, I mean, their only lead was the Halliburton shot with 0.3 left. That was their lead the entire game. That was it. It was 7-0 early, and it was Thunder by small to medium from there. Peaking at the 15 points, and then I myself was looking at that like, this game will not finish 15 points. And I didn't quite know how to feel about where it was going to go. But I just, having watched enough of the Pacers in this postseason, and they've come back 2 or 3 times down 3 possessions inside a minute, and there's 8 minutes left. I did not think this was in the bag until obviously it wasn't. And I mean, if that Halliburton shot does miss, there's no one there to tip it in. That would have been it. So,
did you have the same thought I had when he had the ball, by the way, with about 4 seconds left? Like,
yeah,
immediate flashbacks to other rounds,
yeah.
And like,
it
was in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't do the service of bouncing 7 feet vertically and dropping back in. I would have probably called in sick to this if he had done that again. But no, I mean,
Then
it
it
was
gets
his
really
ball,
voodoo. That happens twice in a single run, much less in a
right? I
couple of
mean,
years. Yeah, I'm with you.
and who better to do it against than the Thunder? So, but his shot, his ball, took it down with authority and found a spot and hit it. And yeah, I'm really hoping that's going to be a footnote in this series, not the start of a historic upset based on the expectation is Las Vegas set out for this Thunder team is minus 700 to minus 750 series favorites. Haven't seen a line like that in a decade almost. I think one of those KD Warriors teams that kind of blew through LeBron and the merry band of Cavs was like a minus 1100 on the series, and they looked it. So I don't know. I mean, we saw in Game 1 in the Denver series, Mark got a lot of scrutiny for fouling up three a couple times. Once
There's always
near the
scrutiny
free
when it
throw
doesn't work.
line,
There's always scrutiny when it doesn't work, though. But
right?
when it
And
works,
now,
when it
now
works,
I can see it now. Kendrick Perkins, why the hell is Isaiah Hartenstein not in the game? And I'm going to give Mark the benefit of the doubt there. He's forgotten more about coaching in the last week than I've ever known. So it may not appear like something that worked. Obviously, now in hindsight, we lost the game. I thought early it worked. I thought they were quicker. Hardenstein is great for what we have him in there for. He did completely just airmail a floater, which makes me always physically cringe because I don't understand how that's his go-to as good of a player as he is. And I had flashbacks from Denver when he was throwing them, just not even within a basket of the basket. And he did it again late tonight, mixed in that just horror show of late shots. And I thought the Shea jumper off contact was essentially what you want out of your MVP approaching 40 points. That's his shot to take. I thought J-Dub on the wing was there for three, but in that situation, I have no problem with the MVP taking that shot. I thought he came in at an interesting time in the fourth. I don't know. I don't have exact numbers on how far that early fourth spell usually is for Shea, but I felt like, there was an uneasiness in the building, and this was like, all right, this is that comeback team, and they're right in that danger zone. And I think it was into the second third of the fourth quarter, or in English, about 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. I think he and Chet were sitting on the scorer's table waiting to come back in, and something that happened that caused Mark to call timeout and get him the game anyway. So, that just made
they subbed in at 7:44.
kind of a timeout, I
Out
think.
of the timeout. Yep.
Because I was sitting there wondering as it ticked to 8 and below 8, I'm like, all right, like it does take a dead ball to get him in the game. I mean, we saw that the Knicks had that one game where they had Brunson and I think it was Hart just sitting on the scores table helpless as precious seconds ticked off. But that's pretty in the weeds as far as coaching things. I thought were interesting. Again, there would be a lot said about the Casey Wallet's minutes and how he looked today, and he's never one out there for offense, but when Chet's putting up 6 points and Jalen Williams is struggling, with the volume shooting, I think that, Lou Dort was incredible trying to add a secondary source of points outside of Shea because J Dub had it and he didn't, and he had it and he didn't, and that's evidenced by the almost tour date he had from the field. But if somebody's going to try and shoot their way out of it, I'd rather it be J Dub than anybody else not named Shea, to be honest with you.
I like the intent of Wallace playing there, though. The idea
I
is
did too. I loved it.
the neutralization of Nembhard, and that's
Right.
Nembhard's been super, super effective on both sides of the ball. Even if he's not necessarily shooting, he's one of those guys that I just can't. I know at all times when he's on the floor because
Oh, yeah,
he's
it's true
either
tonight.
answering
It really
like
was.
his hands in Shea's chest a couple of times. Like those guys know
Yeah.
each other. I get that little hand chippy stuff's going
Right.
to happen, but like the way he uses his body, his chest, and his hands on guys, and he knows he can get away with it. Those kind of guys are really dangerous. That stretch you're talking about where they subbed out, and Carlisle, by the way, too. Like talking about some of the nitty gritty coaching stuff. Like they mentioned on the broadcast, it's always funny when they do this. Talking about hockey on a basketball broadcast, it feels like it always
Yeah.
happens late in the season like this. But they did a 5-for-5 sub. They just completely did a line
Right.
change, and it was one of the more effective subs that Carlisle had done in that stretch. Um, I didn't love taking Caruso out in that stretch, but when you're putting Dort, Chet, and Shea
Right.
back in at that 7:44, I mean, you can argue back and forth there, but then the Pacers hit a couple of threes right after that. So the bank one, the Miles Turner one, was the one that not long after that substitution. So
Or Turner, not Siakam, my bad. Yeah. Right.
I don't look. I say this partly as satire, but also like Neesmith. I don't know if these guys are on the same playing field. I think this guy that I'm about to say is a little bit better than this. But as soon as that Neesmith three went in with like 2:30 left, full blown PJ Washington flashbacks, like
Oh yeah. No, I mean
complete A to
he
B.
is as unknown now. The game where he had the 6 threes in what felt like 90 seconds might make him a little more notorious than PJ was, but PJ was an afterthought in Charlotte. Got dealt at the deadline, and that's one of those trades where only a couple of people aggregate it. I'm like, this is interesting. All right, that's fine. Um, but that is really what it felt like it was. It was the guy out of nowhere shooting from where he rarely does, and obviously Neesmith is more inclined to shoot and make threes than PJ ever was. I don't think PJ's hit 5 threes since that day. So that's
I think it's more about the gravity. I think it's more about the gravity of okay, that shot goes in that situation at that time.
it's all downhill from there from them. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
that was my main point. Was like it went in, and I immediately was like, okay, all right, the whole mood of this entire show just changed, and I just started typing new things out, and I started reshaping some of the thought process. Um, I don't want
that's
to
a
keep burying on the negative, but like I do want to talk about something I think is really interesting that happened in the first half. That you mentioned the struggles of Jalen in the first or in the second, just in general. I eventually want to flip this as a hey, ultimately you're a fan, and we want to talk about that. And I want to talk about. I ask you after each game, no matter who's playing in the finals. I've always asked you this: is like, okay, what does blank team need to do to win game two, or is it as simple as the turn? I mean, you're not forcing 24 turnovers again. You probably could. Like if
no.
of any team in the league right now that could, it's the Thunder. You're not going to do that again. There's going to be adjustment, but I don't. I just you Jalen's second shot of the game was with a minute and a half left in the first half. That happens, they
Yeah,
don't win the series. That keeps happening. There's
it
nothing.
can't.
There's nothing. There's no coaching that fixes that. Like he's got to be more aggressive. I think it's an aggressiveness thing. I don't think he's driving to the rim enough. I think he's taking those wing threes that he really, when they go in, they look really awesome. But man, he was a top 15 player this year. He was an All NBA player, and you have to be bigger in these moments. And I get some guys like they did those little mic'd up moments or whatever. And I'm with you, by the way. The text that we exchanged earlier about mid game interviews, cut them off, done.
Oh, get the
Finals,
hell, get it out.
done.
That's awful.
No,
I
none
don't
more.
care.
I do like the mic'd up things though of guys that have never been in the finals. I've always enjoyed that.
Yes,
And
that I'm all for.
Halliburton openly admitted 5 minutes in, the best player on the floor at most of points of the game, said, hey, yeah, it took me a few minutes. I had to get my legs back. I had to shake it out.
Yeah.
I had to kind of get the nervous energy out. And I expect that from Jalen after 5 minutes. And his second shot can't be with a minute and a half left in the first half. It absolutely can't happen.
Now he was invisible for a lot of the first half, offensively at least, and he did get very aggressive. Kind of flipped his switch and um, had a couple of good drives to the basket, got some contact, made some shots, but I think it got away from him. He was like, okay, I only have 7, 8, 9 shots. I need to shoot more, and it didn't go his way tonight. And Shea shooting, as much as the MVP should, and you could tell because he was. I still think he finished just north of 50% on the night. Um, just about got 40 points. So if somebody's going to do that, that's Shea's to do and figure out. But yeah, Chet Holmgren also just. I mean, you want to talk about invisible? There were times I was wondering, was he on the floor? I had to stop and think and look and scan and figure it out. I mean, his shot blocking presence is second to maybe none. I mean, Miles Turner did lead the league in steals the regular season. I think I saw the broadcast at one point, but um, his best asset is his anchor defense in and around the rim, shot blocking effectively without fouling, straight up, all those things. And He's capable of offensive outbursts. That's not something the Thunder lean on, and they sure as hell didn't get it tonight. He had 6 points, and 2 of those were on the free throw line. So um, there's got to be a happy medium between 30, which would be very unexpected, but equally as unexpected as 6 on that stage in that spot. And not to look ahead to the biggest Thunder enemy, the second apron. You're putting up 6 in a finals game, you're not getting $250 million. I can tell you that right now. They will draft a 6th grader that can do it because they've got 40 more draft picks. So, a tertiary scoring option having a bad night, Dort kind of filled that if you were looking at stat sheets and trying to mix and match what was expected. Because if you swap Dort and Chet, I wouldn't even think of it just passing over a box score. Like, okay. So yeah, Chet's got to be more assertive, I think, on offense. And I mean, not to turn this into a degenerate podcast, but I took the first quarter under 56.5, and at no point was I even sweating that. I was like, these are 2 teams that have never been here. I think Alex Caruso and 2 other guys have even been to the finals before, and none of those guys were starting except for
Alex Caruso
Siakam,
has a
obviously.
ring, sir. Alex Caruso has a championship ring in his closet right now.
There's the Lakers. There's the Bill Simmons style. Just slide in the home team there. That's
you opened it up for
Caruso, Siakam, and someone else I should remember were the only the finals alumni there.
That's a fun quiz question. Let me look. It's not Tony Bradley, that's for sure. Who is it? Am I blind?
I heard 3 on the broadcast. So
we're doing this now. Hold on. What's your point? Right. I'm eliminating 8 people on your roster that have not left your roster since they've been drafted. So
I'd say
that helps.
8. You could do a lot more than 8.
Yeah, that's true. All right, you keep going. I'm gonna figure it
out. I thought that it was a pretty high line. I know these are 2 teams famous for high scoring, and they showed that throughout the playoffs. But these are also 2 teams that play frantic, disruptive defense, and they really do not let you get into what you want to get into. They don't want you to let you find your spots. The Pacers had a lot of full court pressure tonight. I think that definitely had an impact on the offense as a whole. The Thunder were able to run, and especially the success rate at that. Thunder shooting just south of 40% from the field. That's not going to get it done, even in a home playoff environment. One of the best, if not the best in the NBA, I would contend. And so they've really got to watch this tape, burn it. We do get that extra day now, so they're not playing again until Sunday at 8. So staying home cooking throughout the weekend, and then they've got to get right. They've got to knock this series. I keep going back to the Denver series because honestly, I was of the opinion, and I haven't quite swayed off it yet, that that's the best team they've played all playoffs, including Indiana. So obviously plenty of room for Indiana to make me eat crow on that and reevaluate that take. But I will say Rick Carlisle is by far, bar none, the best coach they've faced all playoffs. And this is one of the first times where I think that, he's one of the more underappreciated guys in coaching spheres. He hasn't been in Indiana for too long, but he's been in Dallas. He's won a championship there, and he's been there. And Mark, as good as he is, coach of the year to his name, has never been here. And so I don't know if the Jedi mind tricks with Case and Wallace 20 minutes before tip-off quite worked in hindsight with, dictating success by the victor of the game. But I think that coaching-wise, this is the most formidable opponent that the Thunder have had. And I think, the Pacers, I don't even want to think about 2-0 going back to Indianapolis, but I mean, God forbid, I would retract that Denver comment pretty quickly.
I got sidetracked by the champion thing, which we'll address in a second. But to your point about Chet, it's not as simple as he just needs to be better. He's their only option. And I say that from, I know you talked about some of the shots with Hardenstein, but the problem with him is you've basically cut his minutes since the semifinals.
Right.
And so I'm not saying game 1 tells the story of the series. It never does. He's probably not getting an increase in minutes unless there's an injury. God forbid.
Or he's, just feeling it. I mean,
I just don't see it. Like, I just don't. I think 18 minutes, I think is 17. I think 17 is his cap this series. Like, you're going to have to be small.
Yeah.
I think you play the Pacers game better. And the
Oh, we
part that
did
like
in all
and
spots.
the
Yeah.
part that kills me too is like 36% from three. Like you're the eighth best team in the playoffs right now. 12th best, excuse me. You're the 12th best team in the playoffs in
Oh, they've
three-point
been
shooting.
horrible from three by their own standards. They've been horrible.
If you're I said it to somebody this morning, you're the 12th best team from three in the playoffs right now. If you're the eighth best team from three, you should probably sweep this team.
I mean, people are talking about making us give up 4 guys in the expansion draft at that point. I mean, there's
I genuinely
um,
believe that Hardenstein's like been played out already. Like I'm fully, to be clear on my previous
it
point.
happened with Giddy last year. I mean, they didn't have as long of a runaway to play him out, but it's the same thing. Guy we expected to have a pretty decent contribution. Giddy defensively was not much to depend on, but especially offensively, and we need offense from Isaiah. Put back slobs, whatever needs cleaning up on the offensive glass. We got out rebounded by what felt like 30. I'm sure it was closer to 15, 20. But then with Shea and J Dub and Caruso getting
13 to
down
10.
and dirty. Yeah, and I'm sure I bet we had more points in the paint because
You
that
did.
just makes no sense.
You
It
did. I
just
looked at it earlier.
exactly. So yeah, I mean just eye test number of drives, number of guys getting to the glass. And we did blow a couple down the stretch of that just wheels falling off segment of the fourth quarter that just make me want to rip my hair out because when you're giving up 2 points on the glass in the NBA Finals, you're going to need them. Um, I don't care what the lead is. I don't care when it is. No team has ever cared less than this Pacers team what the score is. So um,
Yeah.
they're going to have to clean it up. They've been down 1-0 once already. And like I said, I still contend that Denver's the best team we've played, Pacers included. But obviously, if these games keep playing like this, and especially coming up not the Thunder's way, then I think that's going to be something that changes pretty quick. And I know you sent that thing to Joel mid euphoric celebration for him about all the things that precipitated this Pacers appearance. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, um, I thought they would beat the Knicks in the series. I just thought that, Tibbs, may his coaching career rest in peace, playing a 4.5 man rotation for 6 months would come back to bite him. And I think that they essentially reached their ceiling with that. So, um, the Pacers coming out of what was set up as a pretty even series at the onset. I'm not terribly surprised that they find themselves here and then watching just, I mean, if they had one of the comebacks this postseason that they've had, I'd be worried. And they've had what feels like 7. So this is a team that will not give up. I mean, Giannis watched a 7-point lead vanish in 30 seconds twice. The Knicks thought they had a beat in game 1 a couple other times, didn't happen. And he's, out there chasing LeBron with like 600 less playoff games played for these clutch shots. And, Grant Hill, one of the most famous Pacers ever, and especially for Knicks fans. I, that's rare air, and he's just getting started to your point because he's been stuck in Sacramento and before very recently stuck in Indianapolis. So I don't know. I still think Thunder at 6, but you show me this, I'm like, it might be 6, but I don't know about Thunder. Hoping that's an overreaction I can laugh about in a week and a half, and it's 3-1 or 3-2 or something like that. But for right now, best way to lose a series is give up home court. So that is what they did tonight, and we'll see if more extra rest benefits the Thunder or not. They hadn't played in 7 days, and that was something I don't love, but obviously the NBA Finals is something set in stone, rock solid. Even if the Pacers had advanced in 6, or excuse me, in 5, they weren't going to move the dates. The Pacers would have had, I think, 5 days off if they wrapped it up then.
Yeah.
But nothing you can do about it. Obviously, Adam Silver wants playoff series longer than 5 and 6 games, but
I
this
thought
is
his
year
point
3 of
about
this.
you see his point about the Packers and the
That's
Steelers.
so stupid. I don't.
I'll leave it alone. I just thought it was funny. Using the Steelers, one of
Yeah.
the most storied franchises in the city that's albeit still one of the largest cities in the United States. Anyway, first of all, respect to Grant Hill, Pacers legend. You said earlier it's also midnight, so That's your excuse for name dropping Grant Hill instead of Reggie Miller. Pacers fans forgive you.
Oh, jeez.
No,
Yeah,
I love
sorry.
Grant is one of the guys, believe it or not, like people always talk about like the Derrick Rose like being the number one like guy we could redo a career. For me,
Mm,
it's Grant Hill. I would 1,000. I know he's a dude guy, but like my God, they were like he was the first real like this guy could really be handed the torch like for
yeah,
real. And Detroit we might be talking about Detroit completely differently as a franchise right now. Like 2004 obviously would have never happened if he took off
sure.
and did what he was doing, but like
Right.
we don't have time for the Grant Hill aside. Um, but respect to Grant Hill. So I guess the question is simple. Like, if Hartenstein's gone, like, let's just talk the rotation out because it's the same question I ask every time: is how did it's not without looking 6, 7 down the road, 4, 5, 4 is irrelevant. Sorry. Um, is it as simple as fixing the rotation? Is it as simple as do you play Wiggins more? Do you play Joe more? I thought Joe was actually really good. I know he only had
He
5
made an
points.
impact. He was pretty good. He was out there hitting twos. That's when he's having a good night.
But 2 of 3 to just be impact. Like he took that screen, or he took that charge too. Like just
Right.
those little things. But is
Flipping
that something you can exploit? Because
he's
ultimately,
flipping
it's a game of
possessions. Yeah.
exploits. I just don't. I'm just not sure Hartenstein's minutes are something. Again, I love the comment. You use it all the time. Like especially in these settings. Like Dagnall's. I'm not worried about him in the slightest figuring this out. I'm not.
No.
Like he's forgotten more about coaching in the last 45 seconds than we've learned in our lives combined. Like that is completely
Yeah.
1000% true. But you have a real problem when Alex Caruso is going to be probably seeing a minutes bump here from 28 minutes.
Right.
He's
And that's the
probably
whole
playing
thing is
24,
from 28, which I'm sure was north of what Chet logged tonight. So I think that's
23.
yeah. So I'm watching, Caruso on centers again, which works, but
Works.
also like
It's work.
that's
You
just a
said it. You said it
comically
right there. It
that's
worked.
just comically to look at. And I I don't know how many fouls Caruso ended up with, but that six number gets a lot smaller when you're giving up 80 pounds and 6 inches. So,
He had 5.
right. So you're pushing it. And that may be the reason he didn't play. I don't know where he was at in the game with fouls. They didn't pop up a foul trouble graphic at any point that's my PTSD has erased it from my mind, but I don't think we got,
We probably
uh,
got I probably missed it, but we probably got a percentage chance to win graphic though. Everyone's favorite. We probably
God,
got
I
one of
hate,
those. We probably
yeah,
got
I
one of
hate
those.
those now. Yeah. At us that screenshot that was funny a week ago of all those 99.2s they came back and won. So um yeah, I mean if you're gonna put AJ Mitchell in the damn game, I could see some Jalen Williams in the center minutes. We saw it against Denver. He was kind of a good foil to the Jokic piece of it because he's a really, really strong dude, shades of Steven Adams in that respect. Just putting 2 feet on the floor and you are not backing him down. You're not moving him off his defensive stance. You're not doing any of that. The bully ball that Jokic, has to get from the free throw line to the restricted area, it just didn't work. Couldn't do it. Um, you have to be really careful with that. And again, seeing Mitchell in the first half, I was shocked, rubbed my eyes a little bit. I don't think it lasted more than a couple minutes, and he didn't really do much. He had a shot, got his rebound, missed another one, which is probably nerves to the rookie's credit in the NBA Finals. I
He's
don't
really
think
and
he.
he's a really really interesting player too. Like a guy I
Oh, he
really
was
like.
fantastic.
I believe I covered him for something on the website a few years ago, and he's super long, athletic. I think I had him like in the 30s at one point on a board a few years ago. Like he's there's a reason that he's
He fits
playing
the
right now in the
Thunder really
finals.
well.
Correct. Yes, there's a real reason why that's
Um,
the case.
but I kind of looked at that and I was like, all right, like I know you're a sicko, Mark, but come on, like at some point we gotta dial back the evil genius there and kind of stick to what we know, which is Caruso, Wiggins, Joe. Um, whether what we know is good or bad on Hardenstein, I think the jury's still out for right now. You can't hit the panic button yet, but if we're in a dogfight again down the stretch in game 2, that is a must win for the Thunder. I, whatever you think of the Pacers beating them 4 out of 6 is going to be tough, especially when you were, expected to dispatch them in less than that going the other way. So, um, yeah, game 2 I think is a must win. At home as it was. I keep going back to that Denver series because that was an absolute war that they fought, but it didn't have to be. We didn't have to have Aaron Gordon turn into Will Chamberlain twice and steal 2 games, but it happened, and we're halfway to the same scenario with Halliburton now. So, um, just can't do it. That's going to be the one thing that I'm going to look back on. However, this final shakes out is like how many games in this playoffs, and there won't be many, but um, like I can't believe we blew that game. Up 9 with 3 minutes left against Denver. I don't know the exact stat. I'll see it 47,000 times on Twitter tomorrow. Whenever we were up with like 2:40 left, it was pretty tight by then. It was inside 2 possessions, I think, but. Um, just stuff title winning teams don't typically do, especially multiple times, especially on their home floor. I'm looking at this stupid final score right now. The Pacers were a 500 road team in the regular season. Go figure. Because now they look like the best team in the world on the road, and they love being down. And it's not like the Knicks where they get down 10 just cause. Like there's some side of, like some sort of dark magic that brings them back in these games, and it starts beyond the 3-point line. And I think again they hit 6 threes of their 18 in the fourth quarter, and that's huge, especially when the Thunder countered with 0 in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I don't know if I don't think we tried to set up. I don't even know if Kenrich saw the floor tonight, but Kenrich or Joe or somebody. If Dort's feeling it,
I have an idea. I really think Jalen Williams can actually be really valuable, even if it's just a body.
he's going to have to be. I think if
6'8",
he's out there,
250, he can at least stay with Siakam a little bit.
and if he
Siakam's
gets
faster, more
behind it,
athletic. I get that, but like he's
and
a
if you get
body.
by him, you got 6 fouls. You're not going to be in the game long enough to use them.
Yeah,
That's 2-3 less fouls on Chet or Hartenstein or Caruso or whoever's down there trying to rip a board away. If we're gonna foul him, if we're gonna foul Siakam and Turner 5-6 times a game, I'm fine with Jay Will picking up 2 or 3 of those because he's gonna have plenty of those in his pocket. And if he plays 10 minutes with 4 fouls, I don't care. 'Cause that's
you'd
not a
rather
guy you
him get
want
him
to
than
close
someone
with.
else.
You're
You'd
not
rather
going to
him.
close with him, so you want those guys to be pretty clean and they can play defense how they want to play defense. And if we start to get, in that late game, like going for a 2-for-1 or Turner gets the ball, want to put him on the free throw line, whatever the case is, we want those fouls to be at least available. And I don't think that was any kind of hindrance tonight, but just again PTSD from past playoff games and rounds, and a lot of foul trouble in that game 7 against Denver. That's just what it brought me back to. A bit as well in that Minnesota series because honestly, the Thunder got a pretty favorable whistle on that. We were able to be more physical with them, and it was officiated a bit differently. I thought they closed the gap, down towards the latter end of the series, but at that point, it's pretty much signed, sealed, delivered. So
I've said this many times. I think, especially after last year, and then especially even the year before, and how that team went 40-42. I think I'll take that to the afterlife and not know how that happened. They've matured and they've grown and they've learned from these moments. And I think game one, you're a real championship team if you take game one on the mouth and you learn from it very quickly. Now the gap in the game, like I actually think that might be a small like mental thing that they have to get over. It's like, okay, we turn around and played, a day late or 48 hours later, whatever the hockey schedule,
right.
which I actually prefer, by the way. But I think I'll be really interested to see how quickly because they just came out like on the pedal in game one, even with the jitters, even with like it still felt like they were on top
It
of
was
it.
7-0, 2 minutes
They were
in,
in
and that
control of
was
everything. They were in control of everything for the first 12 minutes. I thought when that game went, like when I moved to a different TV in a different room at that change of the first quarter, I was like, the Pacers have no chance. Like I literally multiple times throughout this game was like, which I get is silly. I'm aware, but this team, I think if they can learn and really show that they learned from their mistake, I think not that I think anything wrong down the stretch. I think the Pacers have just reached this point of they're more comfortable in those spots. They just really are. I
mean,
don't know.
you don't always have to be better. If you think you're better, that's about as dangerous. And if you're throwing up shots and you think they're going in, they're going in because you've done it 6, 7 times already. That's a pretty tough thing to curtail, and especially like I said, the one Achilles heel for the Thunder has been those corner threes that we've given to players that statistically should not make them. But I mean, we learned it with PJ, we learned it with Aaron Gordon. We're going to learn it with probably somebody else. It takes one guy on one night to have in his head he should make it, and then you're in a lot of trouble. So, um,
I
just
think they'll be all right.
self-inflicted
I
for
do.
sure.
I think they'll be all right, and I think I'm looking. Game two will be. I mentioned how impressive their rim pressure was today. It was impressive, but it ultimately, obviously, I felt like there were some points where like they could tell Indiana was getting hot from three, and they felt like they almost had to keep up. That very young
Yeah.
team mistake, it really did, and I don't think that's very characteristic of them. And so, if guys can be more aggressive getting to the rim, I know you have guys that ultimately want to be the 3-point shooter in those situations, but guys just need to be confident, get to the rim. I think you're going to be fine in game two. I really do. NBA champion Thomas Bryant, by the way.
Oh God, well that's on you. Yeah.
Didn't think I forgot that one. I held on to that for the last 20 minutes. NBA champion Thomas Bryant.
That's more minutes than he got in that whole series. But
yeah, he's also turned into prime Klay Thompson from the corners too.
Oh, that was lovely to watch.
That was my last tweet before tonight. Was in their last 4 days ago for their last game. He hit those like 3 threes in the fourth quarter in the corners, and I was like, Thomas Bryant is now prime Klay Thompson. I've learned.
I think he had one or two tonight. I remember it vividly one.
He had one in the corner, and he does the same celebration every time, and it makes me laugh. And then now, you know what? I'm not laughing anymore. He's an NBA champion. Was that on the back, shoulders, head, knees, and toes of Jokic? Yeah, of course it was. But 2023, here we are. Look, MVP, defense, multiple defensive players, multiple All NBA team players, Coach of the Year. I still think this team has a chance to be one of the best teams of all time. I still believe that because they're one of the youngest teams who have ever done this, potentially. And I don't think you should be worried. I think you should be optimistically nervous, I think is the best characteristic, I would say, after game one.
I think I'm decided I felt worse after Denver because I had you got the best player in the world on the other side, and you just know you can't lose games like that. And Halliburton is certainly top 15, approaching top 10, depending on how far you want to move guys based on the limited scope of the postseason. But he is not Jokic, and there is not a Jokic on this floor other than the guy that maybe the only guy who even snips him is the guy to win MVP, and he had about 40 tonight, and
he's on your side.
So
deep breath.
It was in a loss. So yeah, and this stupid extra day I get to sit and watch, First Take ask if we should trade Chet for Kevin Durant for 2 hours in the morning. So can't wait for that. But that's what you get when you lose games like this. And they'll come back Sunday and hopefully respond in the same way they did against Denver. And come out, reassert yourselves as the better team and take care of home court. And yeah, I don't know how to feel about going to Indy. I mean, regular season is the regular season. It means nothing. And then you factor in Chet didn't play either game. It means even less. And then I think the latest matchup was March. So, I mean, that amounts to just about what it sounds like. Not
you guys throttled them in March, by the way. Like you absolutely.
I remember watching that game because I was like, okay, Indy's a good team. They were pretty hot then, kind of starting that ascension to a series contender in the East. And I was like, I don't know, we might drop this one. Like it's a good spot in the schedule for a loss if we were going to have one. And I think we beat them by 30.
You throttled them.
It was a game I expected to watch all 4 quarters of, and I think I checked out about when the usual suspects checked out for the night. I was like, all right, well, pleasantly surprised. That's cool. Never thought for a second I'd be watching them in early June. Run it back. But yeah, it's strange how the regular season can be sometimes.
I won't make you give official prediction, but I've made it very clear. I think you'll be fine in game 2. I don't know how the next couple games, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. So I'm going to ask you this now. I know it's late. And then we'll get out of here. I can't speak for these guys contractually, financially, where they are in their life, but do you kind of wish we think a lot alike on this stuff. Do you kind of wish NBA inside the NBA was just done after this year?
No.
Okay.
All
right. I went back and forth a couple times.
If ESPN was ever going to not ruin something and not put a horrid project on TV, like whatever SportsCenter is now, it would be this one. The job's already done. The show's already done. Just bring over the staff, put them in a room, and do
Pay them and
nothing.
let them do
Don't
it.
touch anything.
Yeah.
And if Chuck says something bad about the network, it's 85% of the time true. Tough. You're going to get 10 million views on social media over it, and you're going to make enough money to wipe your tears away. It's fine. Just don't mess it up.
I'm cautiously optimistic because basically they let Pat do whatever he wants, and his show is almost
Uh,
identical to what it was on YouTube 5 years ago. It's almost identical.
yeah, but there's something to be said of a show that airs in medical office waiting rooms at noon and something that airs in prime time, and you're pushing, Stephen A.
Medical
Smith
office.
around and SVP around. I think it's a little different. It's one of those, if a Pat McAfee F bomb dropped in a forest and no one's there, like, I mean, he
His
does
social
do
media
great
team will
numbers.
find it. That's for
He
sure.
does have good numbers. He has a great loyal audience, and that's what's got him to a platform like ESPN. But that's apples and oranges if I've ever heard it. But I understand what you're saying as far as like creative freedom is what we'll call it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I
And
think.
so I think, hopefully that has set the stage for some of ESPN's hands-off behavior with talent. And I think McAfee's done great in his young career, but he's nowhere
Near what these
even
guys are.
close to the
Yeah.
level of, I mean, this is one of the more iconic sports programs ever. It's been running for decades. And unfortunately, just
There truly has nothing ever been like it before, and there probably never will be again.
there won't be
It's that
again.
it's that unique. I'm with you.
There just won't. I don't see how you amass that talent and get that lucky with that level of just cohesion and guys staying loyal to the network and look where that got them. But again, I think that just sticking together with that four and do I want to vomit when I see Draymond up there? Sure, but that's just me being a Thunder fan. I think that Draymond does have a future in broadcasting, and I think LeBron will certainly make a pretty decent foray into it. And so, there will be a next generation because I, Shaq and Kenny and Chuck and EJ, they won't be there to do it forever. But for now, while we have all four of them, just don't touch it. Don't do anything. The only way you mess it up is if you start to think, how can I make this more like ESPN and not keep it exactly the same it is? Don't change the spirit of it. Don't change anything. Again, if they trash ESPN, who cares? I mean, it's $1 billion company. I don't understand. I,
The
I'd rather be
mouse's the
notorious.
mouse's checks will still clear.
Yeah, nobody's going you know, out of business over there. I promise you. It is, again, it's all they have to do is do nothing. That's it. That's
Okay. Again,
I
I've
mean,
changed my mind 3 or 4 times. I'm just curious where you
if
land on
Pat
that.
McAfee can be asking Ian Rappaport about a just insane fake story from some Ole Miss sorority or whatever that garbage was for 25 minutes, I hope he gets sued into oblivion for that. But if that's allowed over there at 1:30 Eastern when no one cares, I think we can let Chuck say some mean things about ESPN at midnight. I don't. If you're gonna let one go, they really better just let this be a complete unadulterated version of Inside the NBA, which is the reason that they're where they are right now.
I'm totally ripping this off from Pardon My Take, and I don't care. Who's the funniest ESPN or non-ESPN personality that could appear next year and ruin the show?
Oh, the funniest.
I mean, you've seen the Mina Kimes stuff with all that. I'm sure you've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
Again, I'm totally stealing this. I'm curious what you think. It's funny.
I think, and it's a terrible answer
Because remember,
entertainment
by the way,
wise, but
before you say, remember, I thought about this earlier. Sorry, I forgot to include this.
yeah,
They don't get a month and a half off because of March Madness anymore.
no, they don't.
So this person is going to just be on the set for when Shaq gets the flu in February. Like, so
I really think, and they would never do it, but if they tried to put viral with viral and stick Pat McAfee on there,
okay, we were thinking the same thing. That's funny. All right, yeah.
one, I just would, it's like a train wreck. You have to watch it, right? Like you have to.
Perkins would be pretty bad. It'd be
Perkins,
bad.
Perkins is going to tell everybody that he won an MVP in Oklahoma City by the time he's every time he brings it up, he's a great role player. He was a key piece of the team. It's like we all watched you. No, you weren't. It's funny to watch Durant kind of quote tweet that and gently like hold his hand like, hey, no, this is not true. Like we
Hold
all
his
watched.
hand
Serge
is so
Ibaka
funny. It's so
tweeted,
true
I've
though.
never seen a Serge Ibaka tweet organic on my timeline. He's responding to that just like crying, laughing. It's just like some guys you just can't help. I think Perkins would actually be a realistic answer. I don't think they'd be ever not that McAfee's incapable, but just that does not mix. That's oil and water for sure. I think Stephen A. Smith.
I think the crossover with Booger McFarland would be really awesome. I genuinely believe that.
There's not many reasons I won't watch a football game. He's one of them. So if they can just not do that, I'd be grateful. I think Stephen A. Smith will genuinely probably end up on that set somehow.
He's already made the phone call, 1,000%.
Yeah, I don't think that will go well because I think he has an area of authority that he's earned at ESPN, and there's 4 guys who don't care, and one's out, and there's still 3 guys there. That's 3-on-1, and he's going to try and take it over and make it the Stephen A. Smith show. Featuring Shaq, Kenny, and whoever. And I just don't think you would get the same quality of interactions, the organic stuff, the actual funny stuff. And I think that's the most likely one is Stephen A. Smith, just because there's levels to this. They're not just going to throw anybody in there. And I know that TNT mixes it up pretty weird midweek, and I think they do a good job for what they've got at their disposal, but ESPN's got a lot more faces and a lot more people, and Stephen A. Smith is making more than half the players on the court tonight, so I think that's got to be taken into account too. That's not just money to forget what team Hunter Henry's on. He's got a presence, and he's going to want, to your point, to rest of that presence front and center with the big attraction, and that's going to be inside the NBA. They better not change the name. I don't care what they have to pay for that, but
hey, for Stephen A. General Hospital, it pays the bills and gets you the authority.
Yeah, he laid there dead. I mean, that's not. That's going to get aggregated a lot more if he's up there just completely bombing on jokes for 20 minutes trying to fill in. Yeah, I'd never watched General Hospital. I actually went and watched half the episode that he was in the other day just because he was the poor jogger. I was like, I don't know what network this is on. I'm sure this is episode 7,042. I know nothing, but I was like, I wonder what the actual appearance was. And he's done it before, and I've seen the 30-second kind of clips, but it was a soap opera. I'll put it that way. I've not returned to watch any more of it, and I probably won't. And if he's the lead character for a month, it would take me another 2 months to probably realize it. So,
man, the reaction I would have given though, if I was when I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, this is how you know it's past midnight. We're talking about this. The reaction I would have given if I was, 10 years old watching those shows with my grandmother, and next thing you know, an ESPN personality popped up on there laying in a coffin like he was, and the reaction I'd have given would not have been appropriate for a grandmother. I can tell you that. No. I'd be just as shocked as anyone else. All right, enjoy this time, even if it's 4 games, I keep saying 4 games. Sorry, even if it's 5. We want more content. We want to be able to do this for a few more games.
I'm good with 5
for the sake
I've
of your
shifted.
health
I'm good with 5 now.
Yeah, 5 is good. At the end of the day, enjoy this because some of us don't care about baseball anymore, and this is all we have left. Free agency's not going to be anything this year. The draft's going to be fun, but let's enjoy this while we have it. My God, basketball, the drought now is really it's actually a pretty long drought, and I don't know. We'll figure it out. Got a lot of fun stuff going on around here. These are great as always. This will be out. We're recording this in the wee hours of June 6th now, and so this will be out when it's out on June 6th. But glad to be back. March hiatus, the house, this will not look like this. This too full. There's too much crud. But neither here nor there. It's been really fun. Sorry about game 1. We'll get it figured out. I think you guys will come back. Like I said, I think you'll get it figured out. But we want good games. That was ultimately what we got tonight. So even at the expense of your health and well-being. On behalf of Grayson, this has been the 2 Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, and almost an hour in, we will see you after game 2.